Utilizing your basketball genetics. I'm Tony. Welcome back to Streetball Strategies.
DNA, let it flow. Skill in the marrow, it's all you gotta know. Off the court experiments, ignite the grind. Ballin' starts in the lab, not just baseline.
Today we're talking about discovering and optimizing using your basketball genetics. Now, a lot of times when people say genetics, they automatically associate that with talent. Now, there is a definite closeness between genetics and talent, but to me, the way I look at it is genetics are what you were born with and talent is how you apply that. So for example, your genetics may be that you were born to be either tall or short. If you're born tall, then a lot of just like average tall people who are not necessarily athletes, the reason they're not athletes is because they don't have that athletic talent, those athletic genes to be that tall and have, body coordination. So their genetics is to be tall, but they don't have athletic talent. They can't apply their genetics to that would-be talent. So this video is going to be pretty straightforward, a lot of commonsensical kind of stuff, a lot of kind of obvious things. But, if you're a newer, younger player, or even if you're a more established player, just a lot of good thoughts and ideas for you to sort of consume and think about when a lot of players probably don't. So let's start out by talking about how you can discover your natural basketball genetics. I start with discovering your genetics because the more you can understand who you are naturally as a basketball player, what your natural strengths and weaknesses are, the easier, better, probably faster you can then engineer your game to be the best version of basketball player that you can be. So for example, if you're a shorter, smaller player like myself, you're probably going to flourish more around the perimeter of the court because you're genetically predisposed to playing on that position on the basketball court. Now, it is possible, but it's much more unlikely that you try to engineer and build your game against your natural genetics. So if you're a small player, but like in your heart, you want to be a center, right? You want to be around the basket, working around the rim, dominating down there, getting blocks, getting rebounds. Like in your heart, if that's where you want to be, but you're a small player, it's not that you can't do it or you shouldn't. It's just that it's going to be that much more difficult for you because you don't have the traditional genetics to do that. And just human nature is, go with what's easiest. Take the path of least resistance. So if you're smaller, then it's just easier for you to develop a smaller player's play set, which is to play around the perimeter. But when you're trying to discover, okay, what kind of player am I? What am I naturally good at? What am I naturally not good at? To me, this is where you need to be as thorough and comprehensive as you possibly can be, because the more thorough and comprehensive you are, the more you're going to who you are naturally as a basketball player. Thus, you can then engineer your path to success much easier. And the way you discover those strengths and weaknesses is by experimenting, with everything possible on the basketball court. And when I say experiment, I mean you have to go above and beyond just the mindset of, okay, how do I play in competition? What do I do naturally when I'm in competition that feels good, feels right, and feels awkward? How once I discover that, then I can then start to engineer my game around those natural feelings. You have to think above and beyond that because that's what most players do. That's what the basic players do, the casual players. They just go, okay, well, the way I play in a game, in competition, that's what I'll pay attention to. That's what will determine how I will build and develop my playing style. But this channel is all about going above and beyond. So it's not just what you do out here in competition, right? Because that's what everybody thinks about. That's what everybody concentrates on. For us to go above and beyond that, I say pay close attention to what you do off the court as well, maybe even more so. So pay attention to how are you as a practicer? How does it feel to you to practice? Is it natural? Is it awkward? Do you like it, not like it? Same thing with training. When I say training, I mean like, how are you with doing non-basketball physical activities that are supposed to help you get better at basketball, like weightlifting, conditioning, running line drills, physical stuff. practicing is all about doing sort of drills and workouts specifically for basketball to make you specifically better at basketball. Training is about training your body to be physically more prepared for basketball, even though you're not doing specific basketball activities. So how are you as a trainer? Is it natural? Is it not? Does it feel awkward? Does it not? Do you like studying the game? Do you like understanding the game? Do you like the strategy and the X's and the O's, the coaching aspect of the game? Does it come natural to you? Does it not? You need to discover as much about all that off the court stuff as possible, because on the court, competition stuff, like you're obviously gonna pay attention to that stuff. It's all the off the court activity that you really want to drill down on. If for no other reason, because nobody's seeing that. Nobody sees your off the court activities, meaning when you discover the weaknesses that you have off the court, you're the one and only person that will ever know that. When you're on the court and you're actively trying to evaluate yourself, well, everybody else sees what your strengths and weaknesses are. More importantly, they see what your weaknesses are, and they can try to use them against you. But if you help to relegate your on the court weaknesses by hopefully taking care of them off the court first, and nobody sees that, then nobody will be able to recognize those weaknesses in your game and then thus use them against you. But yet, and still, let's go beyond just that, just the off the court kind of stuff. When you think about being on the court in competition and evaluating yourself in terms of your genetics and talent that you can apply in game, think beyond that. Because, for example, I grew up with a friend who we would come out to the court, start playing, and it would take him 2 or 3 games to really get into a rhythm and get into a flow. Like, he did not play well in the first 2 or 3 games. But once we were out here for about an hour, his game would start to pick up and come together, and he would start to get into a rhythm. If he was in the NBA, he would be more of a bench player, right? Because if he started the game, he just wouldn't play well. But if he sits on the bench, watches the game, mentally engages in the game as it's happening, then he can mentally work himself into a basketball rhythm so that when he checks into the game, he's probably going to play pretty well. So think about, in terms of discovering your genetics and talent you can apply, think about it in terms of that as well, because not everybody's going to be able to be a superstar. When we're talking about out here recreationally, not everybody's going to be the go-to scorer. Not everybody can be that. And if that's not you and that's not your game and playing style, it's perfectly fine. You can still elevate your game and excel in other parts of the game. You don't just have to approach the game from the standpoint of, I can't score, then I suck, and there's nothing I should do. You shouldn't just approach the game from the mindset of like, if I can't score, then I suck, and there's nothing else I can do out here, so I might as well not even work on my game. Like I said, you need to think above and beyond all of that. Leave no basketball stone uncovered, unturned. Try everything. Experiment with everything. Now, the problem with that is that it's going to take a lot of time, because when I say experiment, I don't just mean you try a certain position or certain parts of the court once or twice just to, get a feel for it and see how it feels, tentatively. What I mean is dozens of times, trying everything dozens of times to see how it goes, to, check any fluctuations. Like maybe the first 2 or 3 times you weren't comfortable playing a certain part of the floor, but you find your 4th or 5th time, like, okay, well, now I'm starting to actually understand or actually starting to develop a rhythm of how to do this correctly, or maybe not. But you won't know that until you've done it dozens of times. And doing that's just going to take a long time. But in my opinion, experience, it's well worth that time and effort, not just on the court, but off the court as well. Like, it's the kind of the theory of like, you're going the long way around to get where you want to be, but by doing that, you're kind of going faster than the people that are trying to take like the straight line kind of shortcut, which is like, I'll just play in competition over and over and over again, and I'll modify and elevate my game, on the fly, and that's how I will get better as a basketball player. That's the straight line kind of methodology, whereas you are doing everything, which means you're taking the long way around, but in doing so, you're being comprehensive, and you may be going like slow in the beginning of that discovery phase, but the more you turn that corner as like, okay, now I understand. I have a genuine earned comprehension of who I am as a basketball player, once you start to turn that corner of like, okay, I'm really starting to understand who I am, what my genetics are, and what kind of talent I can apply to those genetics. Once you turn that corner, now that's when the speed, picks up in terms of how you're going to develop as a player. If you just go straight competition all the time and that's all you ever do, then it's like a straight, slow process the entire time. This is like slow at first and then bam, you hit it, and then you go and you really develop who you are faster by going slow at the beginning. But the key is comprehension, being comprehensive, not leaving anything to question, knowing full well, as best as you possibly can, every aspect of the game, experiencing it and seeing how it fits you genetically. Once you've thoroughly discovered your genetics and how you can then apply what talents to those natural genetics that you have, like you have a really good idea of like who you are, who you want to be, who you should be as a basketball player. Now it's about, okay, how do I actually apply talent to my genetics? Let me try to make my point by demonstrating probably the most extreme example I can think of. So, for example, you have players like Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic, right? I could make the case that even though they're white, European, foreign-born players, in terms of the NBA, and, the NBA being the best basketball players in the world and all of world history, those two players have some of the best, strongest, most potent NBA talent ever. They are top tier with the best NBA players that have ever played. They have some of the best talent, some of the best genetics. They're the kind of players where, off the court, because they're so talented on the court, off the court, they don't have to put in any extra work, right? They'll put in minimal work, the same amount of, work their other teammates, lesser teammates put in off the court. They'll do that just as maintenance to keep up their game. But they're not working super hard, Kobe level kind of off the court kind of work, because that's how talented they are. When they're on the court, they can just flip the switch and go, okay, let talent take over, and now I'm going to be an NBA superstar, even without putting in all the off-the-court kind of work. Think about the success, the numbers, the statistics that Luka Doncic has. We all know it's legendary how out of shape he gets off the court, right? But then he gets on the court, and he just turns on his talent and lets his talent do the work for him. And he gets the stats and the success that he gets. That's how talented he is. That's the genetics he was born with to be able to apply that crazy amount of potent talent that he has. Most of us, especially out here recreationally, we just don't have that, right? We don't have those genetics. Thus, we can't just turn on our talent switch and take over and start dominating. That being the case, the way you work on, develop, and use the talent that is supplied by your genetics is you just grind it out. I wish there was more to it. I wish there was some kind of secret advice I could give you, but you have to sharpen the good genetics that you have that allows you the positive talent that you're just born with. Sharpen that, but probably more so, spend more time, more effort working and paying attention to your weaknesses, your bad genetics, and your lack thereof talent. It's my philosophy as a basketball player that you want to be as well-rounded as you possibly can. So whatever strengths you have, it's you sharpen those strengths, but more so you bring your weaknesses up to meet those strengths. Now, there are some players and some exceptions where their game could be very imbalanced, but for them, it works, But to me, those are exceptional players. Most players, I believe the best approach to take is balance everything out. So even if that means you don't work nearly as much on your strengths, and so maybe they come down just a little bit, but instead you work and spend most of your time on your weaknesses to bring your weaknesses up. So now they're even, but they're not quite as high as they would have been if you only concentrated on your strength and let your weaknesses stay low. To me, having that lower ceiling right there is better than being imbalanced. But that's just, I think it's a matter of opinion. That's a matter of preference. Maybe that imbalance works for you and that's fine. But I find that for most players, it's better to be well-rounded and to be balanced as a player. So that means you're going to have to spend the vast majority of your time working on your weaknesses. And that just means you're just going to have to grind it out. You're just going to have to outwork everybody around you if you want to bring your level of talent up to be able to compete with whoever else out here. You're just going to have to outwork everybody, especially when it comes to your weaknesses. And the key to this is, are you smart enough, clever enough to come up with a way to make working on your weaknesses valuable to you? Like, ideally, you would find a way to like make it fun and entertaining to work on those stuff that you suck at. But, you know, that's just human nature. Like, if you're a great three-point shooter naturally, then that's when you come out here, right? You're going to practice. You spend a huge amount of your time shooting three-pointers because you're already good naturally at that. You know, the stuff that you're naturally good at, because you're naturally good at it, means it's easy. The more easy it is, the more fun it is. The more fun it is, the more you do it because it's the fun thing, right? And then the opposite is like, no, I'm not good at this thing. So because it's hard and difficult and frustrating, I'm not going to put in the time because I don't want to put up with the frustration. And then it's like, okay, but you're not going to get any better. So the whole idea is, how can you make working on your weaknesses valuable to you? How can you make it satisfying, fulfilling? That's up to you to answer for yourself and your game and your personality. Because like I said, if you want to be that balanced player, most of your time is going to be on your weaknesses, but that means most of your time is going to be doing stuff that frustrates you and that is difficult. So how do you combat that? I got lucky as a player. I like the grind. I like the struggle because every little bit of improvement I made, I took like real pride in that. Because like for me, it was like, I don't have basketball talent. I'm the opposite of Luka Doncic. So any improvement that I made, I took real pride in that because I earned it. And I earned it through the grind, through the work, through all the off the court stuff that nobody ever sees and nobody ever appreciates. But I got strong satisfaction out of that. If you don't, like I'm assuming most players just aren't born with that like I was. So in that case, you got to find the inspiration, the motivation to be able to work on those weaknesses and do it consistently enough to actually make progress and mitigate the frustration so that it doesn't slow you down and get in your way. Like I said, I wish there was a better, sexier thing to say about how to apply talent to your genetics, but that's bottom line. That's what it comes down to. If you're not down with that, like if that's not good enough, sexy enough for you, if that's not fancy and showy enough for you, I don't know what to tell you. Because your good genetics, the talent you're born with, you're going to develop that anyway. Like just in competition, you're going to lean on that anyway. So when you're applying it in competition, you're naturally going to be improving it. But also in competition, you're going to shy away from your weaknesses because you don't want to suck. So it's not like you're going to be in competition doing the stuff that you suck at. So therefore, you're not going to get better at those weaknesses until you address them off the court. But if it's not fun, entertaining, satisfying, fulfilling for you, how are you ever going to get them to the level where you actually want them to be? So that's how to optimize your basketball genetics and apply the appropriate talent to them. The two takeaways I want you to take from this video are: one, comprehensive discovery. And then whatever you discover, grind it out. Either sharpen the strengths or grind out and bring up the weaknesses. My advice is find out what your genetics are. Hopefully the player you want to be aligns with the genetics you have, and then take that sort of long road discovery process to discover what kind of player you are, what kind of genetics and talent you have. Be slow at the beginning, turn that corner and get faster as you go, as opposed to just the straight line competition, grind it out route. Always do what works best for you. Of course, even if it's against, it differs from what I say. But in terms of general players, I think that description of how to find and use your genetics, I find that to be the best advice. So I want to thank you guys for watching. If you liked this video, if you found it interesting at all, then please subscribe to the channel. And let us know down in the comments, how did you find your genetics, your talent? What was your principles of discovery to find out what kind of player you were? But before you comment, make sure you hit that thanks button down below, because not only does hitting that thanks button directly support the channel, but it'll highlight any comment that you make as well, making it stand out from any other comments. So for anybody that does hit that thanks button, know I genuinely appreciate it. As always, like, share, comment, like I said. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified whenever any video goes live on this channel. And until then, see you guys next week.
Past the free throw line, step into the Y. Genotype got you reaching, touching sky. Off the boardroom of your mind, you gotta play it clever. Invent your moves, innovation lasts forever. Talk about that